Hello, and welcome to Doctor Who 50 Years Ago. This week, folks, we're doing The Smugglers, Episode 3, still by Brian Hales, and with me to discuss this probably interesting episode of my co-commentators, as I like to call them.
I am Luke.
And I'm Nick.
And I am Ben. Hello. How you doing? Right. Without any further ado, I am going to jump into the news. On September 18th, 1966, Valerie Percy, the daughter of the US Senate candidate Charles H. Percy, was brutally murdered in her bed.
Oh, lovely.
She was stabbed.
Oh, wonderful.
And the only reason I have brought up this slightly depressing bit of news is A, it's the 1960s, what do you expect? And B, she was stabbed. There are quite a lot of knives in The Smugglers, and that's my tenuous link.
Okay.
Actually, that is relevant to this episode in particular, isn't it?
Yes, but obviously Cherub exists in the last two episodes.
I mean, they'd already written this when this happened, but
Oh,
yeah, still, it is relevant to this particular episode.
On September the 19th, because it's going to be the beginning of the end of the first Summer of Love, there is the formation of the League for Spiritual Discovery, the psychedelic religion.
It lasted for about 2 years before they were all captured for drug use.
Ah, yes.
Mm.
Marvellous.
I guess that shows that while everyone was trying to be all psychedelic and religion-y, there was the definite force of the law coming down against them. So this places authority as a very counterculture movement. And so that's obviously something we've got to consider when thinking about the youth and the hippies of the 60s, is just how much that fear of the law and the pressure that came from authority to try and stop them must be affecting them.
Which, of course, continues in this episode of The Smugglers.
Precisely.
On September the 20th, yes, in space news, American probe Surveyor 2 launched for the moon, whereupon it tumbled out of control and crashed into it on September 23rd.
Oh, lovely.
So they're trying. They're failing, but they're trying.
There's lots of space things going on. I guess it's just a general atmosphere of optimism about space. Even the failures don't get people down.
That'll probably culminate in the moon base. Actually, no. It's going to culminate in the 10th planet.
Yeah.
Because they say, we just do space things all the time.
Ooh,
in 1986. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Whilst the Surveyor 2 was launching into the atmosphere, the Motion Picture Association of America decided on a new code for film production.
They brought in the G and the M for film classifications. And so this replaces what they had before that, which was called the Hays Code.
September 23rd, Lyndon Johnson signs the Fair Labour Standards Amendments, extending a minimum wage to various workers, including farms, restaurants, hotels, laundrettes, and the like, effective February 1967.
That's big news.
It's part of his big society.
Yeah,
If
so
that's what I'm thinking of.
that's certainly the sort of... If Britain was anything like it is now, we would definitely have been talking about that in this country.
Especially as the economy continues to go downhill, especially with international trading of the US dollar.
With what by instituting minimum wage in some of the lower paying jobs, it's sort of showing the government does care more about everyone, I guess, and egalitarianism and things like that sort of jazz.
That kind of thing, yes.
So I guess if you see themes relating to maybe more benevolent government, or maybe a society which has a benevolent government in it, or just a generally optimistic future society. Maybe it's to do with that.
Said benevolence was a minimum wage of at least $1 an hour.
Well, I mean, that's better than how it was before. I mean, it's better to have a minimum wage than no minimum wage.
True. And that was the news.
That was the week that was.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
Now we need to get ourselves to the episode proper.
Yes. I guess we need to start. So, opening thoughts? What do you think? What did you think of the episode?
I think it was a little better than last week, but so unremarkable. I think as we've been going through, the episodes have been sort of finding more of a point. Like, there's definitely something going on in this one. I still don't care about it.
I'm inclined to agree with you on that. This was definitely a better episode, in my opinion. It's still very difficult to actually give a care. But the one main thing I noticed was a change of pace.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed very quick, in my opinion. It's barely
Definitely.
23 minutes long.
I would definitely say that there was a bit more action in this one.
Yes.
The cliffhanger is probably the best we've had so far.
That's saying nothing.
Yeah, that is saying nothing.
But at
compared
least
to
it
what the
feels like an
cliffhanger is.
actual cliffhanger as opposed to something that's, just there as an ending.
And even then, the episode staggers towards it.
It does,
Yeah.
but at least it's like a classic cliffhanger. Well, I mean, classic. When I say classic, I mean cliche. But at least it's actually an actual cliffhanger with a gunshot and everything. I guess we should get down to analysing this, how someone from 50 years ago might have received this episode.
Off we go then.
Pike dismisses the accusation so that Squire doesn't care. Blake is convinced by Ben and Polly. Is convinced to take Ben and Polly into custody as the suspected smugglers. Yeah, that's sort of just.
It's a
That was how they-
continuation of the scene from the last episode with the cliffhanger arbitrarily disappearing
Yes.
as it appeared.
Yeah, it turns out the smugglers don't want to kill the king's man or whatever.
No, because they think, ooh, we can use him to, we can turn him away.
Yeah. Or the Squire has some weird ideas of morality or something.
Yeah,
Did he have that? Did he have that last week? Or the week
No,
before?
I'm pretty sure this is a new thing. He doesn't like to kill people now. I mean, it's never explicitly said that he likes to kill people, but I don't know why it's suddenly explicit that he doesn't want to kill people.
the dungeon has really good sound design. Because you hear this echo, it sounds very much like they're in a castle. So I think that scene would have been shot very well and look quite interesting, which I think would liven up the terribleness of the story, which seems to have a lot of talky scenes. I think that it could look quite good at points. Simply because they chose their locations well, and I think that could have made it a bit more palatable to people from 50 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Surprisingly enough, this television drama was made for television, and so pictures are very, very useful.
We finally get a brand new scene where the Doctor's on the ship and he's doing fortune telling, and he and Cooper decide to trick Jamaica by getting the Doctor to fortune tell Jamaica, and then Cooper just knocks him out.
I thought there was something very interesting about this scene,
Mm.
and what that is that Jamaica, as a black slave, is not being painted as a sort of tribal, superstitious savage. He's actually the skeptic, who is the man of reason and science.
Well, I wouldn't go quite so far as that, but
but you see where he's being placed. In
I
that sense.
suppose, but the problem is, it has that, but then immediately he then is kind of outwitted quite easily, isn't he?
Pick up my cards, please. Oh.
I mean, the main thing I took away from that is, yeah, okay, he's not all like religious or superstitious, but he's still stupid,
Yes.
which I found as a problem. Two white guys easily outwit dumb black guy who speaks with a very, I don't know, not like he speaks
Dialect?
like that. It's not great.
No.
Timbre.
Jamaica comes off worse by not being superstitious in this scene because he is so easily outwitted and is shown to be an idiot, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, although as Luke, I do agree with you, at least it's not full racist, it does sort of inadvertently become worse because of that. But I suppose in 50 years ago, people probably wouldn't have cared much.
No.
Most people watching wouldn't have cared. So,
Honestly, when I was watching that, I was just glad that something was happening. I mean, it's not a memorable moment by any stretch, but it's a bit where the Doctor has a plan and there's some tension and a thing is happening which isn't people talking in rooms.
yeah.
And yeah.
Well, the most important thing is the Doctor actually does a thing.
Yeah. And there's like that things aren't being said and people are working out plans together in order to get out of their situation, and it's sort of a clever thing. I mean, if I'm going to remember anything, it's definitely going to be that scene. From the entire story so far, I can't think of anything else which has just been a thing.
Oh, the Doctor being carried away. That was pretty good.
Yes.
That's great. I like that we have a clip of that as well, which is fantastic.
There is a bit of disconnect, I felt, between Cooper and the Doctor, in that Cooper just seemed to be continuously talking in quotes, or 17th century dialect, and the Doctor was just basically mumbling about trying to respond to it. I felt there was a bit of disconnect there.
Yes. That also brings me on to the point of the Doctor being an all-knowing authoritarian figure who's able to manipulate the lower classes with knowledge of things, which I think is an interesting dynamic.
Alright, so basically Pike and Cherub get the Squire to reveal where the smuggler's stash is. Then
Or
yeah,
a
nothing
smuggler's
really.
stash.
It's in like
There's
the
more
graveyard,
to be found.
but it's not particularly interesting, that scene. I don't think nothing really interesting happens.
Take a look at my cage.
I think it's something that he stores it in a graveyard. I think it shows him as a bit more of a scumbag, because sort of grave desecration in a way. I think that
As a moral hypocrite.
Maybe, but
Yeah.
I mean, then he's like, oh, I can't kill people. It's like the Squire's character just sort of he doesn't have a character really.
He's a
just
typical degraded, corrupt official.
Yeah.
He's not really. Yeah, he's just a cardboard cutout who arbitrarily doesn't want to kill people
But
because.
played
he wants.
very well by Paul Whitson-Jones. He's got that
Well, it's 'cause you
stereotype
can.
down pat.
Blake actually lets Ben and Polly free when they get to the inn because he actually believes them. Because plot says that the Squire is corrupt. Then the Doctor just happens to turn up at the inn because that's obviously where the Squire is.
It's where the plot's happening, so the Doctor is there now.
Yes.
That did jar with me, was that the Doctor said, let's go see the Squire when he was on the boat, but now he's just at the inn. I know he's with Cooper, but they said go to the Squire, so why aren't they at the Squire's place?
I was a bit confused for all of 5 seconds, and then I just got on with the plot.
Yeah.
Then now we come on to a more probably the most interesting scene of the whole episode, I think.
Where Pike goes psychotic.
Yes, Jamaica gets murdered by Pike because he's.
Oh yes.
And of course, now this is very interesting because we have actually got a clip of Pike murdering Jamaica. He stabs him, and then you see him fall to the ground, and he wipes clean his knife, and there's actually blood on it, or what looks like blood. The important thing though is it is very real violence. That's not fantasy or anything. And so it's not a surprise that this got cut, especially in the 60s.
You don't need that bit of Pike wiping down the dagger. You don't need a lot of these bits, but they're there to make. They make.
Aren't they? It'd be very dull without them.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's dull anyway.
They make the violence seem very more explicit and real.
yes, you don't get that in, say, the Caves of Androzani. Because you get to see the two mercenaries shot, but you don't cut to them falling down dead, riddled with bullets.
Nowadays, how do we think this sort of scene would be done? Because another interesting thing I noted about this scene is that there's quite a lot of beating Jamaica. He starts on the floor, and there's a good 5-second sequence of him just being beaten, and then he gets murdered at the end. It's a very graphic thing, I think. So how do we think this sort of thing would be made by the Doctor Who team nowadays?
I feel like maybe they'd be more inclined to have him shoot Jamaica with a gun rather than stab him. Pike is looking towards the camera, not directly towards the camera, but in that direction. And Jamaica's got his back to you, so he gets shot, so you can't see his gunshot wound, but he falls to the ground and dies. I feel like something like that. But then suddenly the Doctor's like, we can't go because reasons.
Moral obligation.
Yes, I know. That's
That's literally the words.
That's a load of rubbish. The Doctor, especially the first Doctor, shouldn't be that bothered. Not about some petty thing like this.
He's basically saying, I owe all of these little people something. Haven't I come along and been so naughty? I need to sort all of their little troubles out. It's sort of patronising in its own little way.
That's terribly high-handed.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel like... I still don't really get why he cares, really.
We're siding with Ben and Polly in, come on, let's just go back to the TARDIS.
Yes.
End this episode already.
Yeah,
It
end
should
it
have
halfway
started.
through episode 3. Oh, that would be much better. The next scene is that the Squire is terrified to hear from Cooper that he's playing into Pike's hands. But then he's like, ooh, I can find Avery's gold, so let's go find it ourselves and let's go help set up the cliffhanger.
Yes, there are so many plots for treasure, there are so many alliances being made, it's unreal. There's 6 people, and they're all involved in their own interrelated plots to get money.
Yeah.
And
This is... Go on.
oodles of gold.
This is the point in the episode where there was so many little disparate plots going on, and everyone is conniving with each other to get the same thing. It reminded me of a certain movie series, and so I have the note Pirate to the Cornwall Bean, which I chuckled at way too much.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
Can we just rename the smugglers that?
Pirate to the Cornwall Bean.
Yes, that's brilliant.
Oh god, Luke, I love your bad jokes.
That's brilliant.
The Doctor, Ben and Polly just walk around the graveyard, and Ben and Polly play a rubbish game.
Then it drives the plot along because they find the answer to the secret. It's terrible triangulation.
Amazingly, this filler ends up with Ben and Polly somehow revealing to the Doctor the plot. And so then Hartnett's like, hooray, and fluffs his line in celebration.
And Julia Smith goes, quick, cut!
We go to the cliffhanger scene. So
this one seemed to go on forever. Maybe it was just really boring.
It was a 2-minute long argument between Cooper and the Squire on, should I shoot the Doctor? No, I shouldn't shoot the Doctor. Maybe you should shoot the Doctor. And then Cherub comes in and kills Cooper.
It reminded me a lot of this is just the way my brain works, but if you know Chuck Jones's Hunters trilogy from the Looney Tunes, where Elmer Fudd is deciding whether to shoot Daffy or Bugs Bunny.
Ooh,
And
yes.
so it's like, oh, it's duck season, rabbit season, duck season. And so you have the characters arguing.
I think
Do I shoot them or not?
You're
And
giving
that's
us
about
too much credit, though, Luke, to compare it to that. That's infinitely better.
Yes.
No, it's just because I was zoning out during it. I hadn't started thinking about the Looney Tunes as
Yeah.
I do.
But
I think everybody zoned out during that, and then they came back to discover they were still arguing.
this is marginally better than before because actually the pistol shooting out does mean some things happened.
Actual tension. We don't know who's been shot.
Yes.
Or if anyone's been shot.
Yes. It is, however, in the same place as the previous cliffhanger. But at least, just with the gun shot, does at least feel like a cliffhanger. Even if it's boring, it's still at least an actual cliffhanger.
Are there any other thoughts on the episode?
Thank God we only got one more left.
Yes.
I think that should this have been done nowadays, this episode, there would have been much more of an emphasis on the violence. This is because, as much as I joke about Pirates of the Cornwall being, that basically did overhaul the entire people going after a treasure thing genre. And so, nowadays...
Wasn't the pirate genre before Pirates of the Caribbean dead, basically?
Completely dead. That there was nothing to it. And
Maybe
so
this helped.
So I think that nowadays it would be a lot more in that mould, where in this one, it's basically some people in a town running around and bumping into each other by accident, just because they happen to be within a square mile. Whereas if this was to be done nowadays, it would be a lot larger scale. This is a very small feeling story.
You can get an idea of what they would do with the pirate story in Doctor Who nowadays, because they did do Curse of the Black Spot.
You know, we watched Curse of the Black Spot on the other podcast barely a month ago, and I've already forgotten everything about it.
But I do remember it not being super... there's not lots and lots of violence in it.
Yeah, and so, that one was obviously made with an awareness of this one.
But I think New Doctor Who is sort of like the way it treated pirates is a very sanitized, modern interpretation. These were terrible people, and yet they're depicted in a sort of romantic light almost.
Played by Hugh Bonneville.
Yeah, they're actually more realistic, I suppose, in that Pike at least murders people in cold blood.
Yes.
They're all corrupt. Right. They're all going to do anything they want to get their hands on loot. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? This horribleness will conclude next week. Thank you very much for watching. You can find us on Blogspot, iTunes, Facebook, possibly elsewhere. If you find Doctor Who 50 years ago elsewhere, well done you.
Also, if you do find it and it's in one of those, and it's not in one of those places, and is on, say, VK or Vimeo, please let us know, because someone's probably stealing us. Our voices are being stolen for corporate reasons.
Do you really think anyone is going to pirate us?
Oh, no. We have jumped the shark, ladies and gentlemen.
That didn't take long.
No, we're not even through our first serial yet. Hooray.
Oh, I meant for this episode. Oh, God. Yes, okay, join us for the possibly thrilling, but probably not, conclusion to The Smugglers on Doctor Who 50 years ago. I have been Ben.
I've been Luke.
And I've been Nick.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Ta-ta.
Arr.